We're on weather alert as overnight rain could turn into slushy snow by morning. We're timing it out hour by hour.
It's a frustrating situation when you talk about children.
Police say a group of young people are responsible for a weekend robbery, one of them just 10 years old. We take a look at the surveillance video and the frustration from the community. Plus, Governor Wes Moore is promising to leave no one behind in his state plan, but not everyone is convinced.
Having maybe champagne taste and a year later you got a beer budget.
We press the governor's office on where the money is coming from. With 2 months left in this year's legislative session, state lawmakers are moving forward with a bill to keep juvenile sex offenders from attending public schools in person. The progress made since a bombshell Project Baltimore report.
At the end of the day, we want to make sure that people who go to school can go to a school that's safe.
Fox 45 News is demanding answers from city leaders after we found Baltimore is giving millions of dollars to nonprofits not in compliance with the state. What happened when we brought our questions directly to the city council?
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
We are on weather alert tonight as a winter storm heads our way, bringing the potential for our first February snowfall.
And Fox 45 is keeping an eye on the roads and the skies as that wintry mix could complicate your morning commute. Baltimore County, Carroll County, Cecil County, and Harford County schools are on a 2-hour delay tomorrow in anticipation of the slick commute. Fox 45 News will continue to update this list throughout the night. We'll keep you updated on air and online. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubalo. Winter weather advisories already in effect.
As neighbors ponder over what happened and look for accountability, even from the suspect's parents.
A lot of children right now in the city of Baltimore don't have a parent. And if they have a parent, a lot of parents not indulging or involved with the child. It's a frustrating situation when you talk about children.
Well, as far as the 3 boys arrested, police took them to the juvenile detention center. No word tonight on if they were detained or released. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. Well, tonight we are learning there was a second robbery shortly after the Washington Boulevard incident, just a few blocks away on Sterrett Street. Baltimore police say 2 16-year-olds and an 11-year-old were arrested after shoving a man and stealing his wallet, phone, and keys. Those suspects were taken to Baltimore's Juvenile Detention Center. Fox 45 News asked police if the 2 incidents are related. So far, we have not heard back.
Juvenile crime issues are extending to Towson, where Baltimore County Police say 4 young people were detained in a robbery near Towson Town Center Saturday night. Residents in that area are sharing their concerns about safety.
It's not an easy thing to know that in my neighborhood that this kind of thing is happening when we are out and about just doing our business.
Well, this isn't the first time we've seen juvenile crime issues at Towson Town Center. Last January, the mall put a curfew in place after a police response to a large group of unruly teenagers inside the mall.
Keith mentioned State Democrats' crime plan, which also includes reforming the Department of Juvenile Services and the state's probation process. A Senate committee is set to discuss similar plans from Republicans tomorrow. One bill focuses on the Juvenile Interrogation Protection Act and allowing parents to have a bigger say when their child is questioned by police.
Most parents want their kids to get out of trouble, and they'd rather have the kids tell the police the truth and then deal with it back at home as a family than to have the juvenile being advised by some lawyer they've never met and just talk to over the telephone.
Changes to the Juvenile Interrogation Protection Act were not included in the Democrats' plans. Also happening tomorrow, Democratic Senator Jill Carter is expected to propose a bill calling for child in need of supervision or SINS petitions to be required in certain circumstances. Republican delegate Robin Grammer joined us on Fox 45 News at 5, saying the issues go beyond petitions.
We need clarity about the SINS petitions. SINS, you know, this is the golden bullet for a lot of people. They think this is going to fix the process. We don't even know how many petitions are filed. And in some jurisdictions, we're not seeing any at all. And frankly, I think rather than picking crime by crime, we need something in place that if we have a youth that's committing crimes over and over again, we allow law enforcement to approach, arrest that youth, and bring them in so we can provide them diversion programs like we could in the past.
Fox 45 News will closely follow these hearings in Annapolis tomorrow. We'll have complete coverage on air and online at foxbaltimore.com.
Governor Wes Moore lays out his 3-year plan for Maryland, promising to leave no one behind. He has not called for any tax increases, but the plan's price tag is raising questions about how the governor will fund his project. Fox 45 News' Mackenzie Frost takes us through the proposal and the pushback.
The governor says that this state plan could serve as a roadmap charting Maryland's future, but political experts say it could also serve as a roadmap for the governor's future aspirations. Governor Wes Moore outlining his 3-year plan for Maryland.
It will chart the course that we will take for the next 3 years.
The 10-point proposal centering around a similar platform that led Moore to the governor's mansion now, leaving no one behind. He wants to do it by investing in children's success, calling for the end of child poverty, making Maryland more affordable, advancing infrastructure, ensuring world-class health systems, boosting green and clean energy, and tackling public safety concerns.
So we will always have work to do.
As well as increasing student performance in the classroom.
We care about education. We care about making sure that our schools are getting the supports and the resources that they need. We want to make sure that education is going to be the pathway to long-term economic success and long-term competitiveness for our state. We have to invest in it clearly, and we have to use data and metrics to be able to show that it's working.
How much life support does Kerwin have long-term?
Political analyst John Deedy says with the multi-billion-dollar education spending plan facing pushback out of spending concerns, the governor is forced to reckon with a topic that's typically central to Democratic politics. Right now, Moore has yet to call for tax increases to foot the bill for his plans.
Long-term with the structural deficit, how do all these ideas fit in when, you know, having maybe champagne taste and a year later you got a beer budget?
With a possible White House run on the horizon, Deedy says Democrats in other states are showing how investments can be made, while Maryland continues to grapple with the structural deficit in the future.
Gretchen Whitmer's announced, hey, community college, free now. In Maryland, we're cutting community college funding. It's all come down to results.
Deedy says Moore's state plan includes lofty rhetoric, but short on specific plans to pivot if necessary. And the vague plans, Deedy argues, is not by accident.
In many ways, he's thinking about a legacy already, but legacy long-term. Martin O'Malley used lofty rhetoric, but it didn't get him very far with presidential aspirations.
Monday, we sent Governor Moore's team a few questions about the state plan, asking, is there a price tag attached? Why did Governor Moore decide to unveil this plan given most of the details are included in his budget or the State of the State address? What accountability measures are in place if the key performance indicators listed in the plan are not met? Is there a time frame for those objectives to be met before something changes? Meanwhile, the dissecting continues for the governor's budget proposal, and the big question about tax hikes continues to loom over lawmakers.
You can snip a little bit on spending, but sooner or later you have to pay the bill.
The governor's team tells me there is not a new price tag associated with the state plan. Rather, some of the ideas are included in the governor's budget proposal. We know those details continue to be debated in Annapolis. As for the accountability metrics, the governor's team says they are standing up a performance cabinet to make sure the metrics are tracked and those goals are met. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you support raising taxes to pay for Governor Moore's state plan? So far, 99% of people who voted say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to make your voice heard.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, A group of state lawmakers is calling for the release of 911 recordings surrounding an alleged domestic incident involving Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers after the police department refused our requests for them. Why they say it's important the public gets this information. Fox 45 News is demanding answers after an investigation found millions of city dollars going to nonprofits not in compliance with the state. Tonight, we bring our questions directly to the city council. And state lawmakers are taking action after a Project Baltimore investigation found a juvenile responsible for a rape is allowed to attend a Baltimore City school. The progress that's been made since that news first broke.
Two months remain in this year's legislative session in Annapolis, and lawmakers are moving forward with legislation to keep juvenile sex offenders from attending public schools in person.
Project Baltimore's Chris Papp shows us the progress made to keep your children safe.
This amendment is perhaps the most important part of this bill right now.
Last week, lawmakers in Annapolis moved forward with fulfilling a promise.
It will close the juvenile sex offender loophole.
A promise made after an explosive Project Baltimore report found a juvenile rapist was taking classes at Patterson High School in Baltimore City.
Why would we have this be the most important thing? Well, I'm not sure if you've seen it on the news. It's been all over the Baltimore news.
On Thursday, the House Judiciary Committee,
here's my question, I normally don't do this,
for more than 10 hours, heard testimony concerning Maryland's juvenile justice system.
We would respectfully request an unfavorable report.
A main topic during this year's 90-day legislative session. Throughout the hearing, multiple pieces of juvenile justice legislation were debated. About 8 hours into the hearing, Baltimore County Delegate Kathy Schlega introduced this amendment.
What the amendment says is very simple.
A child may not attend a public school in person if the child has been convicted of rape or a sexual offense that, if committed by an adult, would constitute a felony. Each county board shall provide alternative educational options for children prohibited from in-person attendance. Delegate Schlega told Project Baltimore that amendment, or some version of it, should be added to whatever legislation the House passes this year concerning juvenile justice reform.
This is happening right now. And, if you do nothing this session, please close this juvenile sex offender loophole. Thank you.
If Schlegel's amendment becomes law, it would help prevent another situation like what happened at Patterson High School last month. In January, Project Baltimore first reported on a juvenile rapist attending Patterson. In December, the student pleaded to second-degree rape in Harford County. Later this month, the 15-year-old will be in court facing another second-degree rape charge involving a second alleged victim in Baltimore County. Despite all that, he was allowed to take classes inside a public school. And because he's a juvenile who is not placed on the sex offender registry, parents and students were not informed.
I was sickened, I was angered, I was disgusted.
Republican and Democratic lawmakers were outraged.
As a parent, as any parent, immediately it was a sense of horror and hard to understand.
Project Baltimore last week sent an email to all 188 state lawmakers. We asked if they believe it's appropriate for a rapist to be attending a public school, and if this is an issue the legislature should consider addressing this session. We received many responses, mostly from Republicans, all of them stating how sex offenders should not be in public schools with other students. The House Republican caucus even issued this statement, announcing their efforts to change state law to protect school children. The House Republican leadership also sent an email to the Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi, in part asking, why was this individual not required to register as a sex offender? Did the department know of those pending charges? And was it appropriate that no incarceration was recommended? DJS has not yet responded. Meanwhile, some Democrats have announced their intentions concerning juvenile rapists attending public schools. Democrat Sandy Bartlett from Anne Arundel County responded to our email. I support alternative teaching methods for the offender.
They have been found effectively guilty on the juvenile side of having done awful, terrible things. There is a public safety question that needs to be addressed.
The Judiciary Committee, where Delegate Schlega introduced her amendment,
We're going to get started with our bill.
is chaired by Delegate Luke Klippinger, a Democrat from Baltimore City. Klippinger told FOX45 he and his colleagues in the House and Senate are working to address this issue. But it's tricky because students, he said, must be safe in school, but juvenile offenders must also be educated.
At the end of the day, we want to make sure that people who go to school can go to a school that's safe, and we want to make sure that we can do that while at the same time making sure that those juveniles, after they're found delinquent, they can get their education. It just probably not going to be in a traditional school setting.
How confident are you that legislation will be passed to address this issue?
I feel like if we're able to get people around the table and work this out, hopefully we should be able to do that.
Project Baltimore will continue to follow this story. We will keep you updated on the progress of any legislation coming out of Annapolis that is intended to keep your children safe in school. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Project Baltimore wants to hear from you. Do you have a story about your child's education or a concern you'd like our team to investigate? Call the tip line or send an email to projectbaltimore@foxbaltimore.com. You can also find them on social media.
A letter to Baltimore County leaders demands more transparency in their investigation into an alleged domestic violence incident involving Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers. Why lawmakers argue it's time to make the 911 recordings public.
President Biden makes his TikTok debut, hoping to connect with younger voters. Why some say the president is ignoring national security risks.
Our storm has begun to arrive, and here it is. We've got the rain across the area, some chilly temperatures, but we've got a lot more to go with this thing. As you see, the moisture just pooling up, surging northward. We'll eventually see that turning into some snowfall for your morning commute. We're going to talk about it coming up.
And before we go to break, we're going to take a live look over Towson right now. You can tell the roads are wet out there as the rain continues to come down. Stay with us. We'll be right back. President Joe Biden's campaign joined TikTok over the weekend, leading to concerns from lawmakers in Washington who are looking to ban the platform due to its Chinese connection.
National correspondent Janae Bowens has the fallout.
You get in trouble if I told you.
President Joe Biden's new campaign TikTok account is causing him some trouble. It appears he's flip-flopped on an app that he has not only expressed national security concerns over, but also banned on the devices of nearly 4 million federal workers.
China, as they seek to leverage digital technologies and Americans' data in ways that can present harm and risk to our national security, clearly. The White House does not use TikTok.
The move met with fierce criticism from Republican Senator Josh Hawley, who posted Biden campaign bragging about using a Chinese spy app, even though Biden signed a law banning it on all federal devices. The backlash over Biden's TikTok follows last month's Senate hearing, where social media CEOs, including TikToks, were grilled about online sexual child exploitation.
We have a company that's a tool of the Chinese Communist Party that is poisoning the minds of America's children, in some cases driving them to suicide, and that at best the Biden administration is taking a pass on, at worst maybe in collaboration with.
Now, Biden's aides told us the account will be run entirely by the campaign team, who said they are incorporating security protocols to ensure safety, but they didn't give specifics about what that looks like.
Certainly on the surface, it looks dissonant or even hypocritical.
Paul Matsko with the Cato Institute says the Biden campaign is likely targeting younger voters. That's a key part of the Democratic base that Biden is struggling with.
Younger and perhaps more in tune with younger generations, folks on the Biden campaign are realizing it would be political disaster to fully cut off the campaign from TikTok because it's the platform that young people use.
But with the FBI, the FCC, and congressional leaders warning of TikTok's owner ByteDance possibly sharing user data with China's authoritarian communist government, the message might get muddled. I'm Janae Bowens reporting.
And that brings us to our national question of the day. Do you think presidential candidates should be on TikTok? So far, 97% of people who voted say no. You can weigh in at foxbaltimore.com/vote. Click on the Pulse tab.
Ahead at 10:30, newly released sketches show the suspect in Rachel Marin's murder for the first time. Why investigators say the red hat is a key piece of evidence.
And chewing tobacco may become a thing of the past in Baltimore stadiums, including for the players. The city council is taking action. We're following three stories at 10:30. A new lead in the search for Rachel Marin's killer as police shared these sketches of a suspect. Why officers say they waited 6 months to make them public.
Concerns over police transparency surrounding the investigation into an alleged domestic violence incident involving Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers. Why several lawmakers say it's time to release those 911 tapes.
Millions of city dollars are helping fund Baltimore's nonprofits, but our questions about how these organizations are vetted have gone unanswered. We begin there. A Fox 45 News investigation found nearly 24 of Baltimore's largest nonprofits are not in good standing with the state.
That's right. Jeff Abel has been following the story for weeks, taking his questions to the city council tonight. Jeff?
Well, when our emails went unanswered, we decided to go to City Hall today, and that's where we found some city council members asking some of the very same questions.
Throughout this state, there's now a record 18,000 nonprofits battling for your charitable dollar. But it appears not all of them are battling to improve their standing with the state. According to the Secretary of State, more than 3,300 of those are now delinquent. In many cases, they've simply failed to file their annual financial information with the state of Maryland.
Well, they're not supposed to be soliciting from people if they're not in compliance with the state.
But that hasn't stopped nonprofits like the Baltimore Civic Fund from soliciting donations on its website, and whose status with the Secretary of State is now deemed delinquent. But at City Hall, a nonprofit's delinquent status appears to make little difference.
They received $14 million of city funds over the course of the last 15 months.
Adam Andrzejewski with OpenTheBooks.com says 23 of Baltimore's top 100 nonprofit recipients of city funds are not in good standing with the state. Some of them are facing financial penalties, but all of them are receiving millions from city government.
Who's issuing these checks? Are they not checking over, to make sure that these entities actually exist before they're issuing checks?
These laws are designed to prevent public ripoffs, and that's why the state of Maryland has the law. It's just not being followed by many of these nonprofits.
Last week, we emailed the mayor's office asking why has the city of Baltimore granted money to nonprofit organizations that are out of compliance with the state of Maryland? How does the city justify giving COVID-19 relief money to organizations which are not current with the state? And does the city plan to cease funding to the Baltimore Civic Fund? So far, there's no explanation and no reply. But some city leaders say they want answers too.
No, if you're not in good standings, that just means that the most basic foundational issues within your organization is not taken care of. And so therefore, why should we trust any public dollars going to those entities?
Well, delinquent nonprofits are not barred from accepting contributions. They're just barred from soliciting them. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. And last year, Councilman Schleifer introduced a bill that would require nonprofits that receive city money to show receipts so the public can see how they're spending it. But the bill never received a council hearing. Last week, Fox 45 News asked the public if the public deserves to know how nonprofits spend city tax dollars. 98% of people who voted said yes.
And here's a live look at M&T Bank Stadium in Camden Yards. The Baltimore City Council has passed a new bill to prohibit the use of all tobacco products, including smokeless tobacco, in all Baltimore stadiums. Now, the stadiums have their own anti-tobacco policies in place, but this new bill would extend to players. It goes to the mayor for his signature. He is expected to sign it into law. The Harford County Sheriff's Office is revealing sketches of a possible suspect in Rachel Marin's murder for the first time. Marin was killed on the Mon Pa Trail last August in Harford County, but up until this point, we've only seen pictures of the suspect's back. This video appears to show the suspect during a home invasion in Los Angeles last March. Investigators say DNA evidence links this man to both crimes. Harford County Sheriff Jeffrey Gaylor says the DNA was taken from a red Air Jordan hat at the California crime scene. Police also say several people claim to have spotted the suspect in Harford County in the days leading up to the attack. And police believe Morin was stalked. But some are questioning why officers took more than 6 months to release the sketches.
We obviously don't want to release the sketch and then
months later come back and say, no, actually, now we want people looking for this. We want to put the best thing we can forward so that when they look at it, we're confident that this is the best sketch we're going to be able to provide.
I believe that they found the balance between caution and releasing it as expeditiously as possible. And there does need to be a balance because haste can cause harm.
Well, Fox 45 News has been investigating the Rachel Marin case for months now. You can find today's update and all of our previous reporting on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Former Carroll County volleyball coach and substitute teacher Evan Frock is pleading guilty to sexual exploitation charges. Police say he posed as a teenager using social media accounts to coerce other teens into sending him explicit images. Frock was fired in 2022 when these allegations first surfaced. Police say there are at least 8 victims. Frock faces up to 30 years in prison. Sentencing is set for April 16th. 7 lawmakers are calling for the release of 911 tapes surrounding the investigation into domestic abuse claims involving Ravens rookie wide receiver Zay Flowers. He is not charged with any crime and has not been named as a suspect. Lawmakers say Baltimore County Police need to be more transparent. Fox 45's Jessica Babb joins us live with her message to county leaders tonight. Jessica.
Baltimore County won't release the 911 recording because of the ongoing investigation, but lawmakers who sent the letter to Baltimore County Executive John Olszewski say the recording should be released and say someone, quote, shouldn't be exempt from scrutiny based on their status. A standout on the football field. Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers is now drawing a different sort of attention. Maryland lawmakers sending this letter to Baltimore County officials saying the 911 recording related to a case involving Flowers and an alleged assault needs to be released, saying it would assure the public that matters involving high-profile individuals are not veiled in secrecy.
We want the public to know that the law enforcement and the laws are even and equal for everyone. There is no bias and favoritism towards famous people.
The incident in question happened back in January in the Owings Mills area. It's believed to be tied to a report filed in Massachusetts, but the details of what happened aren't clear. Police aren't saying much. In Massachusetts, they say they can't, citing the Domestic Violence Act. So Fox 45 sent this public records request to the Baltimore County 911 Center, working to get more information. Even though 911 calls are public records, it was denied. The Baltimore County 911 Center saying it's an open investigation. The letter from lawmakers asking the county to reconsider, saying in other cases, the recordings have been released.
And in light of transparency and open government, those tapes should be released. And, I'm sure the investigation will as well when it is completed.
While in some cases, calls involving domestic violence could be exempt from public records, Baltimore County is instead pointing to it being an open investigation. In a statement saying they don't release records or other information which could jeopardize an investigation.
We respect the fact that they're doing an investigation, but lawyers have weighed in that this has been ample amount of time. It's coming up on a month by the end of the week. So those 911 tapes really do need to be released.
Again, with 911 calls subject to public records requests, we followed up asking county officials why this case is different. And we are still waiting on a response from a county spokesperson for our follow-up questions. And once again, Flowers has not been charged with the crime and has not been named a suspect. Baltimore Ravens in a statement said they were aware of the report but haven't commented. Live in Baltimore County, Jessica Babb, Fox 45 News.
The state legislature is addressing street racing and exhibition driving in Maryland. Fox 45 News has seen several examples of crowds blocking major roadways, doing donuts in intersections, and more. State lawmakers are introducing 2 bills to crack down on it. Now, one of the bills puts tougher penalties in place for anyone caught participating in these activities. The other addresses the noise the vehicles make while street racing or doing donuts. The Tacoma Park Deputy Police Chief is speaking out in support of those bills.
We believe these bills will improve our ability to curb this behavior. The activity of taking over intersections and doing donuts is reckless and illegal. It violates several of Maryland's current traffic laws and endangers the lives of the participants, spectators, and innocent people. It impacts the safety of our entire community.
Well, lawmakers have tried to address the issue before. In 2022, they introduced a similar bill to crack down on street racing, but that failed. Baltimore City has taken some action as well on the issue. In 2022, the City Council passed a bill putting tougher penalties for street racers and stunt drivers in place. As for the current bills in Annapolis, well, they'll have a hearing on Thursday.
Police in Lakewood, Texas have identified the suspect in yesterday's mega church shooting as 36-year-old Genesee Moreno, a woman with a prior criminal history. According to investigators, the woman's 7-year-old son accompanied her to Joel Osteen's church when she almost immediately began shooting. 2 off-duty officers working security at the church are credited with quickly stopping the threat. The 7-year-old and a bystander in his 50s were shot and taken to the hospital. The off-duty officers killed the suspect. Houston police say the 7-year-old is still in critical condition, but the other victim has been released from the hospital. Police say the suspect's gun had a Palestine sticker on it, and the shooting may have been an act of anti-Semitism. Police also say the shooter claimed to have a bomb, but no explosives were found during a search of her bag.
A series of Super Bowl ads raising concerns about national security. I'm Atrell Nashar with the alleged dangers behind the online retailer Temu.
Former President Donald Trump asking the Supreme Court to extend the delay on his election interference trial, why he's arguing he shouldn't have been charged at all.
It is rain overnight, but snow possible in the morning. Could be mixing in as our temperatures near freezing. We'll keep that around at least through around lunchtime. We're going to talk about totals and even further down the road, what's it looking like coming up.